Jake Morrison felt cold metal against his face before he opened his eyes. His head hurt bad, like someone had hit him with a hammer. The taste of blood filled his mouth. He tried to move his hands, but they were tied behind his back with something. That felt like thick wire. The room was dark and smelled like chemicals and burned metal. Jake could hear strange voices talking in a language he did not know. The sounds were harsh and clicking, not like any human language he had ever heard. He opened his eyes slowly and tried not to make any noise. The room was bigger than he thought. The walls were made of some kind of gray metal with lines of blue light running through them. The ceiling was high and curved like the inside of a giant tube. 3 creatures stood near a table covered with his gear. They were not human. Jake had never seen anything like them before. They stood on 2 legs like people, but their skin was dark green and covered with small scales. Their heads were long and narrow, with yellow eyes that had no white parts. When? They opened their mouths to talk. Jake could see rows of sharp teeth. One of the creatures picked up Jake's rifle and looked at it. The creature made a sound that Jake thought might be laughing. It said something to the others, and they all made the same sound. They were making fun of his weapon. Jake remembered what happened now. He had been flying his small stealth ship over a planet called Kepler 442b. His mission was secret. He was supposed to take pictures of enemy bases and count how many ships they had. But something had gone wrong. His ship had been hit by some kind of energy weapon and crashed in the desert. Creatures were called the hegemony. Jake had learned about them in his briefings. They controlled many star systems and had ships that could travel between planets. Earth's government thought they might attack soon. That was why Jake and other soldiers were sent to watch them. One of the creatures walked over to Jake. It was taller than the others and had red marks on its shoulders that looked like rank badges. The creature looked down at Jake with its yellow eyes and spoke in broken English. "You wake up, human," the creature said. Its voice was deep and rough. "I am Commander Vextar. You are prisoner now." Jake did not say anything. His training had taught him to stay quiet when captured. Give only name, rank, and serial number. Nothing else. Commander Vextar kicked Jake in the side, not hard enough to break ribs, but enough to hurt. Your ship was easy to shoot down. Human technology is weak like human bodies. The other creatures made that laughing sound again. One of them held up Jake's night vision goggles and shook his head like he was disappointed. Another one was looking at his tactical vest and poking at the pockets with a long clawed finger. "Look at this primitive gear," one of them said in the clicking language. Commander Vextar translated for Jake. "They think your equipment is funny, like toys for children." Jake watched them handle his weapons and gear. Each piece had cost the military thousands of dollars and represented years of research and development. But to these aliens, it all looked like junk. Commander Vextar walked back to the table and picked up Jake's helmet. "We know humans are weak. Your species is new to space travel. You have no real military power. Earth will be easy to conquer. When the time comes..." Jake's blood went cold, but he kept his face blank. They were planning to attack Earth. He had to find a way to escape and warn his people. "But before we kill you," Vextar continued, "we will have some fun. There is an arena on our battle station. Warriors from many worlds fight there for honor and entertainment. You will fight too." The commander made a gesture with his clawed hand. "It will be amusing to watch a primitive human try to fight real warriors. The crowd will enjoy seeing you die slowly." The other aliens made excited clicking sounds. They seemed to like this idea very much. 2 more creatures came into the room. These ones were bigger and carried energy weapons that glowed with blue light. Guards, Jake realized. They untied his hands and pulled him to his feet. His legs were weak and his head still hurt from the crash. "Take him to the transport ship," Baxter ordered. "Strip him of all gear except basic clothing. Check him carefully for hidden weapons or communication devices." The guards pushed Jake toward a door that slid open with a soft hiss. As they moved him through the corridors of what must be their base, Jake tried to memorize the layout. The walls were the same gray metal with blue lights. Alien writing covered signs and panels, but he could not read any of it. They brought him to a small room with a metal table. One guard pointed a weapon at him while the other began taking off his tactical gear piece by piece. They took his boots, his belt, his vest, and even his watch. They were thorough, but not careful. Jake felt his dog tags slide down inside his undershirt where they could not see them. The dog tags were important. They had his name, rank, blood type, and unit designation. If anyone found them, they would know he was not just a regular soldier. They would know he was a Navy SEAL. But the aliens did not find the tags. They gave him back his basic clothes and boots, but nothing else. Then they put him in metal restraints that covered his wrists and ankles. The restraints were connected by a short chain that made it hard to walk normally. They marched him through more corridors to what looked like a loading dock. A ship waited there, bigger than Jake's stealth craft, but smaller than the huge alien warships he had seen in Intelligence. Photos. Smoke came from its engines, and Jake could hear them warming up. "Get on board, human," one of the guards said in bad English. "Time to go to arena. Time to die for entertainment of better species." Jake climbed into the ship, his chains making soft clinking sounds. As the door closed behind him, he touched his chest where the dog tags were hidden under his shirt. The metal felt warm against his skin. He was a Navy SEAL. He had trained for situations like this. He would survive the arena, find a way to escape, and warn Earth about the coming attack. He had to. The ship lifted off, and Jake felt his stomach drop as they rose into space. Through a small window, he could see stars and the curved edge of the planet below. Somewhere out there was Earth and everyone he had sworn to protect, the aliens. Thought humans were weak and primitive. Jake Morrison was going to show them how wrong they were. A space station called Iron Fang was bigger than anything Jake had ever seen. Through the small window of the transport ship, he watched it grow larger and larger as they got closer. It looked like a giant metal city floating in space, with towers and domes and thousands of lights blinking in patterns. He did not understand. The ship docked with a loud clang that shook the walls. Jake's guards pushed him out into a corridor filled with aliens. There were the green-scaled ones like Commander Vextar, but also other types Jake had never seen before. Some had gray skin and too many arms. Others were tall and thin with white fur covering their bodies. A few looked almost human, except for their bright purple eyes and bald heads. All of them stopped to stare at Jake as he walked by in his chains. Some pointed at him and made sounds that might have been laughter. Others just watched with cold curiosity, like he was an animal in a zoo. The guards led him through many corridors and down several levels until they reached a large circular room. The walls curved up and up until Jake could barely see the ceiling. Thousands of seats filled the curved walls, all facing down toward the center, where there was a round fighting pit made of dark metal. The arena was huge. The fighting area was at least 100 feet across with walls about 20 feet high. Above the walls, energy barriers shimmered with blue light. Jake could see weapons and sharp objects stuck in the metal floor of the pit. Old bloodstains covered the ground in dark patches. Alien crowds filled most of the seats. They were loud and excited, making clicking and growling sounds in dozens of different languages. Some were drinking from containers that steamed and bubbled. Others were eating things that moved and squirmed in their hands. A massive alien with 4 arms and skin, like rock, stood up in a special box high above the arena. His voice boomed out through speakers that made Jake's ears ring. "Citizens of the hegemony," the announcer said in the common trade language that most aliens understood. Jake had learned some of it during his military training. "Today, we have special entertainment. A human specimen will fight for your amusement." The crowd roared with approval. Jake could hear them shouting things like, "Kill the primitive, and show us how weak humans are." 2 guards opened the gate and pushed Jake into the arena. The metal floor was cold under his feet. The chains on his wrists and ankles were removed. But Jake barely noticed. He was looking around the pit, studying the layout, checking for anything he could use as a weapon. The crowd got louder when they saw him clearly. To them, he probably looked small and weak compared to their warriors. Jake was not a big man, only about 5 feet 10 inches tall and 170 pounds. His brown hair was cut short in military style, and his green eyes showed no fear. Even though his heart was beating fast. "The human will face Gorvik the Crusher," the announcer said. "Champion gladiator of the Krillian Empire. He has killed 43 opponents in this arena." A gate on the opposite side opened, and something huge stepped out. Jake's breath caught in his throat. The creature called Gorvak was at least 9 feet tall and probably weighed over 400 pounds. His skin was dark blue and covered with thick plates that looked like natural armor. His arms were as thick as tree trunks and ended in hands. With claws instead of fingers, Gorvak's head was shaped like a triangle with small red eyes and a mouth full of fangs. When he saw Jake, he threw back his head and roared. The sound echoed through the arena and made the crowd cheer even louder. This is not fair, Jake thought. But then he remembered his training. Size and strength were not everything. Speed and skill could beat power if used correctly. The announcer counted down from 10. When he reached 0, a horn sounded and the fight began. Gorvik charged straight at Jake like a bull. The alien was fast for his size, but Jake was faster. At the last second, Jake rolled to the side and Gorvik crashed into the arena wall. The impact made a sound like thunder and left cracks in the metal. The crowd went quiet for a moment. They had expected the human to be crushed immediately. Gorvik turned around, angry now. He swung one massive fist at Jake's head. Jake ducked under the punch and hit the alien in the knee as hard as he could. Gorvik stumbled but did not fall. Jake kept moving, never staying in one place for more than a second. Every time Gorvik tried to grab him or hit him, Jake was somewhere else. The alien was getting tired from swinging at empty air. Jake had learned this fighting style during SEAL training. Use your enemy's size against them. Make them chase you until they are exhausted. Then strike when they are weak. Gorvak was breathing hard now. Sweat dripped from his armored skin onto the arena floor. He tried to corner Jake against the wall, but Jake slipped away again. The crowd was not laughing anymore. Some of them were, standing up in their seats, trying to get a better look. They had never seen a human fight before, and this was not what they expected. Jake saw his chance when Gorvik raised both arms to try to smash him. The alien's armored chest was exposed. For just a moment, Jake jumped up and hit a spot right below Gorvak's ribs with all his strength. The alien made a choking sound and fell to one knee. Jake did not waste time. He jumped onto Gorvak's back and wrapped his arm around the creature's thick neck, cutting. Off the blood flowed to his brain. Gorvik thrashed and tried to throw Jake off, but the human held on tight. After about 30 seconds, the big alien's movements got slower and weaker. Finally, Gorvik collapsed face first onto the arena floor. The arena went completely silent. Thousands of aliens stared down at the unconscious Krillian and the small humans standing over him. No one made a sound for several long seconds. Then one alien started clapping slowly, then another. Soon the whole arena was filled with the sound of alien applause. It was not the cruel cheering from before. This was something different. Respect. Jake looked up at the crowd and raised his hand. He was breathing hard, but he was not badly hurt. The dog tags under his shirt felt warm against his chest. The announcer's voice came over the speakers again, but this time he sounded surprised. The human has defeated Gorvak the Crusher. This is most unexpected. Guards came into the arena to drag away the unconscious Gorvak. Other guards surrounded Jake, but they did not put the chains back on him. They seemed more careful around him now, like they were not sure what he might do. As they led him out of the arena, Jake could hear the crowd talking excitedly in many different languages. The word human was mentioned over and over, along with other words he could not understand. Jake had won his first fight, but he knew this was just the beginning. There would be more opponents, bigger and stronger than Gorvak. The aliens would not underestimate him again, but that was okay. Jake Morrison was a Navy SEAL. He was trained to fight against impossible odds, and every fight he won would make the aliens question what they thought they knew about humans. The dog tags pressed against his chest as he walked. Soon, he thought, someone would discover who he really was, and then things would get very interesting. Jake's cell was small and cold, but better than the transport ship. The walls were made of the same gray metal as the rest of the station, with one thin bed and a toilet that looked like it was made for aliens. A force field covered the doorway. Instead of bars, humming softly with blue energy, he had been on the Iron Fang station for 3 days now. After beating Gorvak, they made him fight 2 more times. First was a creature that looked like a giant spider with acid for blood. Jake had to be very careful not to get cut by its claws, because the acid would burn through his skin. He won by using pieces of broken metal from the arena floor to trip the creature and make it fall on its own acid. The second fight was against a warrior from a race called the Thorians. The alien had gray skin like stone and could throw energy bolts from his hands. That fight was harder because Jake had to stay moving the whole time to avoid getting hit. He finally won by throwing sand in the alien's eyes and then choking him. Unconscious, each victory made the crowds more interested in him. They were not laughing at the weak human anymore. Now they watched his fights carefully and cheered when he did something clever. Some aliens were even betting money on him to win. Jake was doing push-ups on the floor of his cell when he heard footsteps in the corridor. Most guards made loud clumping sounds when they walked, but these steps were different. Quieter and more careful. An old alien stopped in front of Jake's cell. This one looked different from the others Jake had seen. He had pale blue skin and silver hair that was cut neat and short like a military officer. Part of his left arm and the side of his face were replaced with metal and wires. Cybernetic implants, Jake realized. This alien had been hurt badly in some war. The alien wore a uniform with captain's marks on the shoulders. His eyes were a strange violet color, and they studied Jake with sharp intelligence. "You fight well for a human," the alien said in good English. His voice was rough, but not unfriendly. "I am Captain Cross of the Hegemony Fleet. I have been watching your matches." Jake stopped doing push-ups and stood up. He did not say anything, but he watched the captain carefully. This alien felt different from the others. More dangerous, but also more respectful. "I fought alongside humans once," Cross continued. "Long time ago, in the Outer Rim conflicts. Before the Hegemony decided your species was too unpredictable to trust." That was interesting. Jake had not known that humans and aliens had fought together before. His briefings had not mentioned anything about previous contact. "Your fighting style reminds me of those human soldiers," Cross said. "The way you move, the way you think during combat. You are military trained Yes? Jake kept his face blank. Name, rank, and serial number only. That was all he was supposed to give. Captain Cross nodded like Jake's silence told him what he wanted to know. Smart. You follow your training even here. That also reminds me of the humans I knew. The captain walked closer to the force field. Tomorrow you fight again. 3 opponents this time. The arena masters want to test you further. 3 at once. That would be much harder than fighting 1 alien at a time. Jake would have to be very careful and very smart. The crowds are talking about you, Cross said. Word is spreading through the fleet. Some officers are starting to ask questions about human military capabilities. Jake tried not to show any reaction, but inside he felt a spark of hope. If high-ranking aliens were paying attention to him, maybe he could find a way to get information about their plans for Earth. Rest well, human, Cross said and started to walk away. The next day, guards came to get Jake earlier than usual. They brought him to a different preparation room near the arena. This room had medical equipment and weapons racks along the walls. Jake could hear the crowd already gathering above them. A hegemony medic checked Jake for injuries from his previous fights. The medic was one of the gray-skinned aliens with 4 arms. He used all 4 hands to examine Jake at the same time, which felt very strange. Human is in good condition, the medic reported to the guards. Heart rate elevated, but that is normal. Before combat, 2 arena workers came in carrying Jake's fighting clothes. They were simple brown pants and a sleeveless shirt made of tough fabric. The clothes were clean, but Jake could see old bloodstains that had not washed out completely. Jake started to change clothes, turning his back to the aliens for privacy. As he pulled off his regular shirt, his dog tags slipped out from where he had been hiding them. The thin metal chain caught the light as it swung free. What is that? One of the guards asked. Jake quickly tucked the tags back inside his new shirt. But it was too late. Captain Cross had just walked into the room, and he had seen them clearly. Stop, Cross ordered. His voice was sharp and commanding. Show me what you are hiding. The guards grabbed Jake's arms and held him still. Cross walked over and carefully pulled the dog tags out from under Jake's shirt. The captain's violet eyes widened as he read the information stamped into the metal. Morrison. Jake, Petty Officer First Class, United States Navy. Cross read slowly. Then his voice got very quiet. SEAL Team 6. The room went silent. Even the guards stopped moving. Every alien in the room was staring at the small pieces of metal in Cross's hand. SEAL Team 6, Cross repeated, like he could not believe what he was reading. He looked up at Jake with new understanding in his eyes. You are not just a regular soldier. You are one of Earth's elite warriors. Jake said nothing, but he could see that something important had just happened. The way all the aliens were looking at him had changed completely. Captain Cross turned to the guards. Get Admiral Thane immediately. Tell him we have a priority situation in the arena preparation area. 1 guard ran out of the room. The others continued to stare at Jake like he had suddenly grown extra arms. What is SEAL Team 6? One of the younger guards asked. Cross was quiet for a moment, still holding the dog tags. According to our intelligence files, they are Earth's most elite Special Operations Unit, the best of the best. If the reports are true, each one of these soldiers is worth 100 regular troops in combat. Jake felt a cold chill run down his back. The aliens had intelligence files on SEAL teams. That meant they had been studying Earth's military for a long time. They were planning something big. Sir, the young guard said, if he is so dangerous, should we put him in stronger restraints? Cross looked at Jake for a long moment. No, if he wanted to escape, he would have tried already. He is here for a reason. The captain paused. The question is, What does his presence mean for our current operations? Jake kept his face blank, but his mind was racing. Current operations. They were definitely planning to attack Earth. And now they knew they had captured one of America's most elite soldiers. The arena crowd above them was getting louder and more impatient. They wanted to see the human fight again. But Jake had a feeling that his fighting days might be over. The dog tags had changed everything. Captain Cross handed the tags back to Jake. Put these back on. You are going to need them. As Jake slipped the chain over his head, he wondered what would happen. Next, the aliens knew who he was now. That could be very good or very bad for him. But one thing was certain. The game had just changed completely. Admiral Thane arrived at the preparation room within 10 minutes. Jake could hear his heavy footsteps echoing down the corridor before he appeared in the doorway. The Admiral was Azereth, one of the 4-armed aliens Jake had seen in the crowds. This one was bigger than the others, with dark red skin and gold markings that showed his high rank. What is so important that you pulled me away from fleet operations? Admiral Thane demanded. His voice was deep and angry. The invasion schedule cannot be delayed for arena games. Captain Cross held up Jake's dog tags. We need to talk, sir, in private. Admiral Thane looked at the small metal pieces with confusion. What are those? Human military identification. This prisoner is not what we thought. The Admiral's 4 eyes focused on Jake for the first time. 2 eyes were on the front of his head like a human's, but 2 more were on the sides, giving him a much wider view. He looks like any other human to me, small and weak. That is the problem, sir, Cross said quietly. He is not weak at all. And he is not just any human. Admiral Thane waved his lower arms in frustration. Explain quickly. I have 17 battle cruisers waiting for final deployment orders. 17 battle cruisers. Jake tried not to react, but inside his heart was racing. That was a massive force, enough to destroy most of Earth's orbital defenses before the planet could respond. Captain Cross gestured to the guards. Leave us, all of you. This is classified information. The guards and medics left the room, closing the door behind them. Now it was just Jake, Captain Cross, and Admiral Thane. Jake noticed that neither alien was carrying weapons, which was either very confident or very stupid of them. This human's identification says he is from something called SEAL Team 6. Cross explained. I have seen references to this unit in our intelligence files. Admiral Thane's expression did not change. So, human military units have many names. What makes this one special? Cross walked over to a wall panel and activated a holographic display. Computer, access classified intelligence files. Authorization Cross 77 Blue. The display flickered to life, showing pages of text and images that Jake could not read from his position. But he could see pictures of human soldiers in combat gear that looked familiar. These are reports from our spy networks on Earth, Cross said. Analysis of human military capabilities gathered over the past 5 years. Admiral Thane used 2 of his hands to scroll through the files, while the other 2 crossed over his chest. Most of this information suggests that humans have primitive weapons and poor tactical skills. Look at this section, sir, Cross said, pointing to a particular file. Reports about elite human units, the ones they call Special Forces. The Admiral read silently for several minutes. Jake watched his facial expression change from boredom to interest to concern. Finally, Admiral Thane looked up at Jake with new attention. These reports cannot be accurate, the Admiral said. They describe human soldiers who fight with impossible skill, units that complete missions against overwhelming odds, warriors who refuse to surrender even when facing certain death. The reports come from multiple sources, sir, Cross replied. Different spy networks, captured communications, even battlefield observations from neutral species who have encountered human forces. Admiral Thane scrolled to another section. This file specifically mentions SEAL teams. It says they are Earth's most elite warriors. Each one is trained for years in combat, survival, and special operations. Jake kept his face blank, but he was listening to every word. The aliens knew far more about Earth's military than anyone had suspected. They had been watching and planning for years. According to this intelligence, the Admiral continued, SEAL, Team 6 is the most elite unit among the elite. They handle the most dangerous and sensitive missions on Earth. Captain Cross nodded. That human has been defeating our arena champions with ease. Warriors who have killed dozens of opponents. He makes it look simple. One soldier does not represent an entire military force, Admiral Thane said, but his voice was less certain now. Sir, look at the tactical analysis section, Cross said. Our strategists have been studying human military doctrine. They note something very unusual. The Admiral found the right file and began reading. Human forces consistently achieve victory against superior numbers and better equipment. There. Tactical thinking is described as unpredictable and innovative. Jake remembered his training instructors always saying that humans were natural fighters because they had to be. Earth was a dangerous planet compared to most worlds, and humans had spent thousands of years fighting each other. That experience had made them very good at war. The most concerning report is this one, Cross said, highlighting a particular document. A battle analysis from the Outer Rim conflicts where I served with human allies. Admiral Thane read the report carefully. His skin color started to change from dark red to a paler shade, which Jake guessed meant he was getting worried. This describes a single human unit holding off an entire enemy division for 3 days, the Admiral said slowly. 24 humans. Against over 2,000 enemy soldiers. They won that battle, sir, Cross said quietly. The humans not only survived, they defeated the entire division. Admiral Thane closed the files and turned to look directly at Jake. If these reports are true, then our assessment of human military strength has been completely wrong. Jake said nothing, but he could see the fear starting to show in the Admiral's multiple eyes. Sir, Cross said, our invasion fleet is already approaching Earth's solar system. They are expecting to find a weakly defended planet with primitive weapons. But if humans can produce soldiers like this one as their elite forces, Admiral Thane said, then what are their regular military units capable of? The two aliens stared at Jake like he was a puzzle they could not solve. Jake kept his expression neutral, but inside he felt a spark of hope. They were starting to understand that attacking Earth might not be as easy as they thought. Admiral Thane activated his communication device. Command Center, this is Admiral Thane. I need a complete review of all intelligence regarding human military capabilities. Priority Alpha classification. A voice crackled back through the device. Sir, is there a problem with the invasion schedule? Possibly, the Admiral replied. I want every file about human special forces units reviewed immediately. Cross-reference with all battlefield reports from species who have fought against humans. Captain Cross walked closer to Jake. Human, your people are about to face a hegemony. Invasion force. 17 battle cruisers with support vessels. Over 50,000 soldiers. Jake felt cold inside, but he kept his face blank. But now I am wondering, Cross continued, if we are the ones walking into a trap. Admiral Thane was still reading through files on his display. Captain, arrange for this prisoner to be moved to secure quarters. Maximum security, but treat him with respect. Sir? Cross looked confused. If he really is one of Earth's elite warriors, then he might be more valuable alive than dead, the Admiral explained. We may need to negotiate with his people. As guards were called to move Jake to new quarters, He heard Admiral Thane talking quietly into his communication device. "Command, I want an immediate tactical review of the Earth invasion plan." "I have new intelligence that suggests we may have seriously underestimated the target." Jake was escorted out of the room, but he could hear the Admiral and Captain still talking behind him. They were scared now. Good. Maybe that fear would save Earth. But Jake knew that 17 battle cruisers was still a massive force. Even if the hegemony was having second thoughts, the invasion might happen anyway. He had to find a way to warn Earth before it was too late. The dog tags felt warm against his chest as he walked to his new cell. Sometimes the smallest things could change the course of history. Jake's new quarters were much better than his old cell. The room was larger, with a real bed, a table, and even a small window that showed stars outside. But Jake knew it was still a prison. Energy barriers covered the door and walls, and cameras watched his every move. He had been in the new room for 2 days when Admiral Thane came to visit him. The 4-armed alien looked tired and worried. Dark circles showed under all 4 of his eyes, and his usually perfect uniform was wrinkled. "We need to talk," Admiral Thane said, standing outside the energy barrier. "May I come in?" Jake was surprised. No alien had asked his permission for anything since he was captured. He nodded and stepped back from the door. Admiral Thane deactivated the barrier and walked into the room. He moved slowly and kept his hands visible, showing he was not carrying weapons. Captain Cross followed behind him, looking just as tired as his commander. "Please sit," Admiral Thane said, gesturing to the bed. "This conversation will take time." Jake remained standing. He was not going to make himself comfortable around his captors, no matter how polite they seemed. Admiral Thane sighed and sat down in the room's single chair. "I will speak directly. Our invasion fleet will reach Earth in 6 days. 17 battle cruisers, 43 support ships, and 52,000 soldiers." Jake felt his stomach drop, but he kept his face calm. 6 days. That was not much time for Earth to prepare, even if he could somehow warn them. "However," the Admiral continued, "I am no longer certain this invasion will succeed." That was unexpected. Jake looked at Captain Cross, who nodded grimly. "We have spent 2 days reviewing every piece of intelligence about human military capabilities," Cross explained. "The picture that emerges is very troubling." Admiral Thane activated a small holographic display on the table. Images of human soldiers appeared in the air, along with charts and battle reports. "Every reliable source tells the same story," the Admiral said. "Humans fight differently than other species. You do not surrender when outnumbered. You use tactics that our strategists cannot predict. And your elite soldiers are far more capable than we believed possible." Jake watched the holographic images rotate slowly. He could see pictures of Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, and other Special Forces units. The aliens had been studying Earth's military for a long time. "If you represent the quality of Earth's elite warriors," Admiral Thane said, looking directly at Jake, "then our invasion force may not be sufficient to conquer your planet. It might not even survive the attempt," Captain Cross added quietly. Admiral Thane leaned forward in his chair. "Which brings me to my proposition. I want to make a deal with you." A deal. Jake had not expected that. He waited for the Admiral to continue. "I will arrange for your safe return to Earth," Admiral Thane said. "You will be given a fast ship and complete intelligence about our invasion force. Fleet strength, tactical plans, everything you need to prepare your defenses." Jake tried not to show his excitement. Getting that information to Earth could save millions of lives. But he knew there had to be a catch. "In exchange," the Admiral continued, "I want you to provide an honest assessment of Earth's defensive capabilities. If your planet can truly defend itself against our invasion, I need to know before 50,000 hegemony soldiers die trying to take it. Why would you help me? Jake asked. These were the first words he had spoken to his captors since being captured. Admiral Thane was quiet for a moment. Because I am a military officer, not a butcher. If this invasion will only result in massive casualties on both sides, then it serves no one's interests. Captain Cross stepped forward. There is also a political factor. The hegemony is not united on the question of attacking Earth. Many species think humans should be left alone. A failed invasion would strengthen those voices. Jake considered their offer. It sounded too good to be true, but he could see genuine concern in both aliens' expressions. They were really worried about the coming battle. How do I know you will keep your word? Jake asked. You don't, Admiral Thane admitted, but consider the alternative. If I do nothing, the invasion happens anyway. At least this way, both sides have a chance to avoid unnecessary death. Jake made his decision. I want to speak to my commanding officer. Direct communication. Admiral Thane nodded. That can be arranged. But remember, any false information you provide will be discovered when the fighting begins. Lying will only ensure that both sides suffer. 2 hours later, Jake found himself in the Iron Fang's main communication center. Alien technicians worked at consoles covered with buttons and screens he did not understand. Captain Cross stood beside him while Admiral Thane gave orders to the communication team. Earth Command, this is Hegemony Battle Station Iron Fang, the communication officer said in English. We have one of your people who wishes to speak with his superior. There was a long pause before a familiar voice came through the speakers. This is SEAL Command. Identify your personnel. Jake's heart jumped when he heard Commander Lisa Wade's voice. She had been his handler for 3 missions, and he trusted her completely. Commander Wade, this is Petty Officer Morrison, Jake said, stepping closer to the microphone. Authentication code Bravo-7-Alpha-9. Another pause. Jake, we thought you were dead. Your ship went down over Kepler 442b 5 days ago. I'm alive but captured, Jake said. Commander, I have critical intelligence about an incoming attack on Earth. 17 Hegemony battlecruisers will reach our solar system in 6 days. The communication channel was quiet for several seconds. Jake could imagine the chaos that information was causing at SEAL Command. Jake, are you speaking under duress? Commander Wade asked carefully. Jake looked at Admiral Thane, who nodded permission to speak freely. No, ma'am. The Hegemony commander wants to make a deal. Intelligence about their fleet in exchange for an honest assessment of our defensive capabilities. Put the alien commander on the channel, Wade ordered. Admiral Thane stepped forward. I am Admiral Thane of the Hegemony Fleet. Commander Wade, your soldier has proven that humans are far more capable warriors than we believed. I wish to avoid unnecessary casualties on both sides. What exactly are you proposing? Wade asked. Complete tactical intelligence about our invasion force, Admiral Thane replied. Ship positions, weapon specifications, planned attack routes. Everything your defenses need to prepare. And in return, honest information about Earth's military strength. If your planet can successfully defend against our fleet, I need to know before the battle begins. There was a long pause before Commander. Wade spoke again. Admiral, I need to speak with my superiors. Can you give us 1 hour? Of course, Admiral Thane said. But remember, time is short. Every hour of delay makes preparation more difficult for both sides. The communication channel closed. Jake found himself standing in an alien command center, about to become a bridge between 2 civilizations that were preparing for war. Captain Cross put a hand on Jake's shoulder. You are taking a great risk, human. If this plan fails, both our peoples will suffer. Jake looked out through the command center's large windows at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, Earth was preparing for the fight of its life. And somehow, a Navy SEAL's dog tags had become the key to preventing a galactic war. Sometimes, Jake said quietly, the biggest risks are worth taking. Admiral Thane nodded slowly. Spoken like a true warrior. Perhaps our species are not so different after all. 2 hours later, Commander Wade's voice came through the communication system again. Jake could hear the tension in her words, even across the vast distance of space. Admiral Thane, this is Commander Wade. Earth Command has reviewed your proposal. We accept your terms. Admiral Thane nodded to Captain Cross, who began transferring files to a datapad. Commander, we are sending complete intelligence about our fleet. Ship specifications, weapon capabilities, planned attack vectors, and troop deployment strategies. Received, Wade replied. Admiral, you should know that Earth's defensive capabilities are stronger than your intelligence suggests. We have been preparing for this possibility for several years. Jake spoke into the microphone. Commander, tell them about the orbital defense platforms, the new ones they don't know about. There was a pause before Wade continued. Admiral, we have 17 orbital defense platforms, equipped with kinetic weapons and energy shields. Each platform has the firepower equivalent to a heavy cruiser. Jake watched Admiral Thane's expression change as he realized what this meant. The hegemony intelligence had only identified 5 defense platforms around Earth. 17 platforms could do serious damage to the invasion fleet. We also have a rapid response fleet of 26 warships, Wade continued. And our ground-based missile systems have been upgraded with new targeting technology. Captain Cross was taking notes on his datapad. Commander, what about your special forces? How many units like SEAL Team 6 does Earth possess? That information is classified, Wade replied. But I can tell you that Petty Officer Morrison represents the standard quality of our elite soldiers, not an exception. Admiral Thane closed his eyes and rubbed his forehead with one of his hands. Jake could see that the alien was doing calculations. In his head, comparing the invasion force to Earth's real defensive strength. Commander Wade, Admiral Thane said slowly, based on this information, I believe your planet can successfully defend against our attack. The cost to both sides would be enormous. We agree, Wade said, which is why we're prepared to discuss alternatives. Jake was surprised. He had expected Earth Command to simply use the intelligence to prepare their defenses. He had not expected them to negotiate. What kind of alternatives? Admiral Thane asked. A formal peace treaty between Earth and the hegemony, Wade replied. Trade agreements instead of warfare. Mutual defense pacts against common enemies. Admiral Thane was quiet for a long moment. Jake could see him thinking about the political implications of such an agreement. Commander, I do not have the authority to negotiate treaties, Admiral Thane admitted. But I can contact the Hegemony Council and present your proposal. Do that, Wade said. And Admiral, as a sign of good faith, we're willing to share some of our military technology. Our defensive innovations could benefit hegemony forces facing other threats. Jake saw Captain Cross's eyes widen. Human military technology was something the hegemony had wanted for years, but they had planned to take it by force. Now Earth was offering to share it freely. I will contact the Council immediately, Admiral Thane said. But the invasion fleet is already committed to their course. It will take time to change orders. We understand, Wade replied. Admiral, we're sending a small diplomatic ship to your position. It will arrive in 4 days before your fleet reaches Earth. Petty Officer Morrison will be our representative for initial negotiations. Jake blinked in surprise. They wanted him to become a diplomat? He was a soldier, not a politician. Admiral Thane seemed equally surprised. "Commander, are you certain? Your soldier would be in considerable danger if negotiations fail." "Petty, Officer Morrison has already proven he can handle himself in dangerous situations," Wade said with what sounded like pride in her voice. "And he's earned respect among your people. That makes him the ideal person to represent Earth." Over the next 3 days, Jake found himself in an impossible situation. He was a prisoner who had become an unofficial ambassador between two civilizations, preparing for war. Admiral Thane had given him free access to most of the Iron Fang station, and alien officers who had once mocked him now treated him with cautious respect. Captain Cross became his unofficial guide and translator. The old alien seemed genuinely interested in learning about human culture and military traditions. "Your species confuses us," Cross admitted as they walked through the station's main corridor. "You fight with such intensity, but you also show mercy to defeated enemies. You are willing to die for your beliefs, but you also seek peaceful solutions." Jake thought about that. Maybe that's what makes us human. We can be warriors when we need to be, but we don't want war to be the only answer. On the 4th day, Earth's diplomatic ship arrived. It was small and sleek, designed for speed rather than combat. Admiral Thane allowed it to dock with the Iron Fang without interference. Commander Wade came aboard personally, along with 2 other SEAL officers Jake recognized. Seeing friendly faces after days among aliens made Jake realize how much he had missed his own kind. "You look good for a man who's been fighting alien gladiators," Wade said with a smile as she hugged him. "The food is terrible, but the company is interesting," Jake replied. The negotiations took place in the Iron Fang's main conference room. Admiral Thane and Captain Cross sat across from Commander Wade and her team. Jake sat between them, serving as both translator and mediator. The talks lasted for 6 hours. Both sides made offers and counteroffers. The hegemony wanted access to human military training methods. Earth wanted guarantees that no alien forces would approach their solar system without permission. Finally, they reached an agreement. The hegemony invasion fleet would be recalled. Earth and the hegemony would establish formal diplomatic relations. Trade and technology sharing would begin within 6 months, but the most important part of the agreement was the conversion of the Iron Fang's arena into a neutral meeting place for future negotiations between species. A plaque would be installed commemorating the human seal, whose courage had helped prevent a galactic war. 2 weeks later, Jake stood in the converted arena wearing his dress uniform. The fighting pit had been filled in and replaced with a circular table surrounded by chairs. Representatives from a dozen of alien species sat around the table, discussing trade agreements and mutual defense pacts. Captain Cross approached Jake carrying a small metal plaque. "The inscription is finished," he said. "Would you like to see it?" Jake read the words carved into the metal. "In this place, Petty Officer Jake Morrison of Earth's Navy SEALs proved that honor and courage can bridge any gap between civilizations. May future generations remember that warriors can also be peacemakers." "It's perfect," Jake said. Commander Wade joined them, having just finished her presentation to the assembled diplomats. "Ready to go home, Petty Officer?" Jake looked around the arena one more time. This place had nearly been his tomb, but instead it had become the birthplace of peace between Earth and the galaxy. "Yes, ma'am," he said. "I'm ready." As they walked toward the docking bay, Captain Cross fell into step beside them. "Jake Morrison," he said, "it has been an honor to know you." Jake stopped and extended his hand. The alien looked at it for a moment, then grasped it firmly in his own clawed hand. "The honor was mine, Captain," Jake said. "Maybe we'll meet again under better circumstances." "I hope so," Cross replied. "The galaxy is a big place, but warriors who understand honor are rare in any species." Jake boarded the Earthship knowing that his mission was finally complete. He had not only warned Earth about the invasion, he had helped prevent a war that could have cost millions of lives on both sides. His dog tags hung warm against his chest as the ship departed for Earth. Sometimes, Jake thought, the smallest things really could change the course of history.